selling or buying a home using a for rent method, or traditionally the name would be a lease option. And for me, if I'm involved, I think it's going to involve a lease option and purchase agreement. So if let me look at it as if I'm going to purchase from the seller, but I'll give him instructions on how the whole thing works. So first of all, and I have private forms too, but let's work with the forms that we might use from the California Association of Realtors. The first thing we do is we set up this option agreement. We talk about the property, who the parties are. That'd be me. We talk about the price. Well, we would say it's part of an RPA that would be signed by the potential buyer tenant on the property. I'm not going to be signing the RPA. That's going to be what but that RPA is going to have the price to purchase the property, and we might even have an addendum because the first year it might be this price. The second year, if you do a 2-year option, it would have an escalated price. Third year might even have another escalation after that. So we would set up a purchase agreement. We'd probably use a car forms. You may or may not be familiar with them. I like these for most circumstances. High-end properties, we might use more of a customized form. I mean, we're talking like multi-million-dollar properties. So let's come back to the option agreement. So you have the option agreement. Generally, the way we'd set it up is there would be a price paid by the person I assign this option to for the right to control the property for a year or 2 or 3. When I mean control, they have the right to purchase the property at the end of a year, the end of 2 years, or the end of 3 years if they have paid this money, if they agree to the purchase price that we put into the purchase agreement, and if they're still in good standing on the lease. In other words, they're still paying the lease. You haven't had to kick them out of the property for non-payment. So the lease option, the best way to look at this deal is there's a lease and there's an option. Now, if in a transaction that's going to work that I think is fair, that I would want to be involved in, the lease would be for market rate, maybe a little bit higher. The purchase price would be where the price is at the end of the first year, what we anticipate it to be, maybe a little bit higher. And the benefit to the seller would be is that they don't have to pay big realtor fees. If you're working with me, I'm going to get paid based on the assignment of the option. I'm going to get paid a percentage of the option fee. You're going to get that full price for your property if you're the seller. As a buyer, you have the right to control the property. So let's say the fair market value of a property is $600,000 today, and someone anticipates a 5% or 10% appreciation for the year. So the property might be at $660,000 at the end of the year, or $630,000 at the end of the year. And there may be a similar number built into the end of 2 years, the end of 3 years. So the buyer, in exchange for the option, the purchase price of this option, the way we would set it up, gets to buy the property at this price at the end of the year, or that price, or that price. Now, the risk to the seller is the property goes down in value, or the seller decides they want to buy a different property, or they get transferred, or they didn't get their credit up in time to qualify for a mortgage. So there are risks involved in the transaction. There are benefits involved in the transaction. Now, again, the standout benefit that I see for sellers is they get to save 5 or 6% in realtor fees. Now, there will be escrow transfer costs that are frequently 1% or less. But let's say 6% on $600,000, that's $36,000. The seller gets to save by letting the property get rented out for a year. Now, the other thing is that generally, the seller is going to try to make this as hassle-free as possible. So many of the maintenance things are going to be in the lease are going to be shifted to, or can be shifted to, the buyer. And the other thing is this buyer, if we've done a good job, we found a buyer that has spoken with a lender, that's fully informed, that is really motivated to buy this property in a year because they're amassing the down payment, or they're getting their credit together, but they really want to buy this property, that potential buyer is going to be an excellent tenant, paying the rent on time, keeping the property nicely. So there's a lot of good things that can happen in this transaction. We can set it up so that now let's bring it back to, if you're working with me. As the principal, I can set up the contract prices with you. I can set up the lease amounts with you. and we can agree to what the option fee would be that you, the seller, and I share in terms of what we are going to, we're going to require first month's rent and the option fee from the lease option tenant / buyer. So we're going to work that out together. We're going to structure the deal nicely, and we're going to make this work for you as a seller, and we're going to make it work for the buyer as a buyer. Now, is it hard to find these buyers? Well, not in the properties that are going to appeal to the type of buyer we're looking for. They see an opportunity. We have buyers in my brokerage, but we're also gonna market this very well and find the very best buyer we can for the seller's needs. Now, can a seller do this themselves? Absolutely. Are there internet contracts out there? Yeah. Can they be used? Yeah, I like some of them. I might even use part of them in an addendum. So you can do this yourself, but the way we're going to structure this, we're gonna put a purchase agreement together. We're gonna put the lease together, and we're gonna put the option agreement together, and we're gonna do a good job. We're gonna market this for you. Now, are there other ways to work with me as a realtor, an attorney, or as a principal? Yeah, I mean there's other methods. The dream of every potential investor is buying something subject to. Now, I guess eventually, now that I brought it up, I'll have another video eventually on subject to and how that works for a potential seller and how it works for a potential buyer. So I'll buy it subject to. We can also just straight up, eventually, if you're selling the property yourself, you're going to run into buyers that want confidence. That when I was selling my property, this is a while ago in Carlsbad, I had buyers. Well, this was even before I became a realtor, so it was over 10 years ago. But I talked to realtors, and one realtor said, "Hey, tell me what your price is. I will get you my fee more than that." He was willing to list for 4, and he was going to take 2 and 2. And he actually was correct. Now, I used a different realtor, but the price I was talking to people, contracts I had written, all I had to do was sign. Those people came back and paid more than, let me say, it was about a $607,000 property 10 years ago. And people paid more than $45,000 more when I put it on the MLS and was represented by a realtor. So some buyers who want to purchase your property want to work with realtors. So we can work together to help you sell your property. I can get the agreements together. I can give confidence to the buyer. I can work with the buyer depending on what we set up. So there's a lot of reasons to work. If you're having trouble selling your property on your own, there's a lot of reasons to give me a call. I can work as a lawyer for a lawyer fee. I can work on a percentage as a realtor. I can, even if you found your own buyer and you set it all up, you're like, hey, these disclosures, they're going to take me a while. I'd like to have some help with this. How do I structure the deal? What if the buyer's trying, there's a lot of reasons to give me a call. But mostly, let's consider doing this as a lease option if you'd like. Thanks. John McConnon. You've probably seen this at favoriterealestate.com.